Welcome to another episode of EduExcel. This is a continuation of the state versus private partnership in education. Lala Lajpat Rai critiqued state control in education with a nuanced perspective. While he firmly believed that education is primarily the duty of the state and that it must provide free and compulsory elementary education as a national priority, he also warned against excessive concentration of power in the hands of the state. He argued that absolute power centralized from above can be corrupting and demoralizing, emphasizing the need for decentralization to prevent abuses of authority. Control. However, Lajpat Rai did realize the pitfalls of the government control of education, especially when the state was not a national agency and was under colonial rule. A colonial government provided the denationalized education having a crippling effect on the initiative and energy of the people. Even when it produced skilled men, they were planned as distinguished from self thinking and self reliant men. Only a democratically constituted government could undertake the civil duty of educating the sovereign people in the interest of democracy and its ideals. But the class controlling the state and dominating the educational policy of the country, he cautioned, might try to strengthen their own hold. Hence, the need to guard against this insidious tendency even under a national government. But where the control of education was vested in a foreign government, there was always a possibility of miscarriage. Furthermore, he underlined the need to guard against the state control of education with its monopoly over publication, preparation, and distribution of textbooks, as this might generate and feed fascist tendencies in the country. Education being a potent instrument and a means of mild cultivation, he warned, it might turn into a political instrument of thought control of the pupils, turning an army of the faithful in the service of the ruling class, however corrupt and tyrannical. In the totalitarian countries, he noted, the teachers were given very high salaries and perks only to muzzle them into silence against dissent and resistance. They used the instrument of education to control the mind of the youth, to suppress contrary views and opinions, including criticism of the regime. The class or the people controlling the state thus tried to mold the population in their own thinking pattern and belief system through a well devised method of indoctrination. Despite this veiled warning, it was not viable to dispense with the state control of education, especially in an age when it was the duty of the state to provide universal, free, and compulsory education, but of course maintaining continuous vigilance to guard against the aforesaid dangers. In summary, his critique of state control centers on the dangers of excessive centralization of power and the importance of balance, where the state ensures universal education but allows responsible private participation as partners to enhance national progress in education. Rai's advocacy for national education inspired the establishment of indigenous educational institutions such as the Dayanand Anglo-Vedic DAV colleges and the National Council of Education, which sought to promote Indian culture, languages, and values while providing alternatives to British colonial schooling. His insistence on a uniform national system underscored the importance of universal access, quality teaching, physical and vocational education, and leadership development. These principles resonated in post independence educational policies, including the All India Education Commission from 1964 to 1966 and the National Education Policy 1986, and continues to influence the NEP 2020, which balances state responsibility with private participation to ensure holistic, equitable education. Rai's integration of patriotism, social reform, and educational inclusivity established a foundation for Indian education reforms aiming for empowerment and nation building. Thanks for listening. Kindly like, share, and subscribe my channel. We'll be back soon with another chapter from Lala Lajpat Rai's ideas on education for nation building.